I'm Travis Hutson. I'm the Republican nominee running for House District 24. That includes St. Johns County, the southern half, all of Flagler and North Volusia. I'm running because I have a passion to serve this area. I've been on 3 nonprofits, 2 in this area, one being Epic, the other St. Augustine Youth Services. I'm also a small business owner. I have a real estate company that I own that is basically rentals, and I work for Hutson as a realtor as well. I've got 3 things that I really consider that are important for this area. One's job creation. I believe we need to deregulate and streamline government a little bit more so we can help kickstart the economy. The second one is education. We've come a long way in education with all of our students, but I think we need to start funding it better. I don't think we need to raise taxes. I think we can find stuff in the budget, specifically in the healthcare side, that we can kind of cut and shift over into education and help that out. And also, want to look at doing more funding towards vocational schools. Right now, we've kind of gone from a college or career path is how the state's doing it, but we've focused everything with the testing model on college. We haven't gone back to that career. We need to start looking at that. And the last thing I want to do is limit government. I believe wholeheartedly on smaller government. I believe on more home rule. I don't think Tallahassee should preach from the top down. I think it should be the other way around. I think they should come from the other side to Tallahassee and tell us their problems, and if it makes sense across the board, then Tallahassee can get involved. But if it's just a local issue, we need to let them figure it out for the most part. I don't think Tallahassee should preach that. Besides that, I've got some endorsements from the Florida Chamber, one of the biggest business industries in Florida, the Carpentry Association, the Home Builders Association. I've got support from the Florida Realtors, doctors, nurses, a whole different industries between energy and transportation. And I've got some relationships with some good people in Tallahassee, some high leadership quality people, as well as all 4 of the cabinet members actually. So hopefully I can take that knowledge and that relationships and be a voice for this district and make a difference. I do care about it. I've grown up here and I care about the people here. Just a little bit about my background, where I came from. I graduated in this district. I went to school at Pedro Menendez High School, and I actually want to thank you guys because of the coverage that you gave me when I was playing football and running track. Lafayette College was actually interested in someone from St. Augustine High School, but reading the newspapers, they saw my name, and that actually led to me going there. So y'all helped me get a great education in college. I believe their number, when I was there, 50 out of the 400 colleges on Forbes list that sends an education program. So it's been wonderful to get a degree up there in economics and business. Learned a lot about how the economy works, how it ticks from a macro and micro level. Brought that back to my family's business, which was a small private business that does real estate investment. We also have a big agriculture portfolio, so timber, cattle, and I helped oversee all that. My father being at the top, obviously, me trying to be the right-hand guy and kind of coordinate everything for him. Since then, on July 26th, I actually resigned from his company to get more time for this office. I hung my license with Hutson Realty. I've gotten 4 listings and 1 contract already, so I know everybody says the home market's not so strong, but it just proves if you work your butt off, you can get something done there. And I'm here, like I said, ready to serve, ready to take that passion and that energy and that work ethic to the next level and be a good voice for this area and make sure we can get some good differences.
Well, I wasn't going to start with this question, but I will because of the way your introductory comment. Going through the primary elections, one of the things that was surprising to me talking to the local county and city officials is the significant disconnect between local officials and the state legislature. You talk to the school board, they all think the school reform stuff is designed to hurt them. If you talk to the county commission, they think that what the state is doing, state legislature is giving them unfunded mandates and taking away local control, not giving local control. Do you buy the premise that there's a disconnect between the legislature, which these people argue are being driven by political ideology and kicking the can down the road, and they're down the road?
I'll take that as a yes and no, a 2-part question. And there's times that Tallahassee is, because of some of the stuff with the economy, There's times they're passing on some of those unfunded mandates like you're talking about. They're passing on some of that budget because they don't want to make the tough decisions, which we got to do if we have to. There's other times I just don't think they're getting their message out across that well. Go back to education, for example. Education with the scoring and the everybody knows about FCAT and the scoring solutions and everything they've done. We've come a significant strides from where we were, and the message hasn't been getting across. For example, in 1990, when the Democratic Party held office from 1990 to 98, and that's from the governor to the Senate and the House. That's when the testing started, the testing model, and the tests were done locally. In 98, when Jeb Bush came in, he introduced the FCAT premise. That FCAT premise was, we're going to take these local tests, but we're going to compete on a state level, so that kids will actually compete with each other. We're going to measure this, and we're going to put some accountability on them. Well, since that's happened in 1998, go back 1990 to 98, 7% of our graduating rate was decreasing, 7%. Since 98, when we put that in place, 21% of the graduates now, we have an increase in 21% of our graduating classes from 98 on. Some more numbers I can give you on that. In 1990 to 98, there were 677 D and F schools, 517 A schools under that current model. Since we've done this program, it's switched. There's about 2,000 A schools, A and B schools in Florida now, and it's gone down to about 179 D and F schools. So the measurements are working, but we haven't preached it enough, and we haven't got the message across so that local school boards and local, in my opinion, local teachers can hear it. Go back to how the FCAT works real quick. There's 350 teachers and principals that have to go through a class to submit questions. Or I'm sorry, anybody can submit questions once they go through the class. The 350 teachers and principals go through that in a committee. Any one of them can veto any single question that comes across that board to make it fair for every child out there.
I'm going to cut short. FCAT's going away, and you're going to end.
Right, you're going to a core exam. And what the core exam is going to do, there's about, again,
end of course.
CORE, the CORE is what it's going to, the core. And that's basically taking what we've done and competing on a state level to a national level. I believe there's 22 schools, 22 states that are interested in signing up now. I think there's 11 official. It's supported by Chris Christie, and it's supported by Jeb Bush. So it's supported by a lot of people.
Probably Charlie Crist too.
Yeah, it might be supported by Charlie Crist. I actually haven't talked to him about that, but that core exam, same thing. Competing on a state level, now we're going national. So listen. America wants to be number one. We don't like being number two. We always compete. And we want to strive to push that competition, especially in the education system, because that's going to drive our workforce down the road.
Okay, let me ask you some specific questions. Do you believe in pay for performance?
In terms of the merit pay for the teachers, you're asking?
Some call it merit pay, some call it pay for performance.
Yeah, I believe in that because, like I said, I'm a private sector guy. If I'm in the private sector and I'm doing better than the guy next to me, I want to be rewarded for that. The problem with some of that pay for performance is they're asking the teachers to lose their tenure if they jump into that. The good news for Tallahassee and what they did in the last bill was they said it's optional, so you don't have to lose that tenure. You don't have to go to that. Everyone knew.
But you don't get paid.
You don't get the increased pay, but if you want to keep the tenure, it's optional. So they're not going to cause waves with those people. The new people have to do the pay for performance. So yeah, I mean, from that, go back. My wife, real quick, worked at Everbank. She recently just came on board with our company as I resigned. At Everbank, they set goals for her, and they promoted her when she reached those goals. And what ended up happening is she stayed overtime willingly just to reach those goals. So it's making, in the corporate world, we make people compete. And I think we can do that in the public world as well.
Are teachers motivated by money?
No, I think they're motivated by the willingness to perform and their children to do good. But I think we need to incentivize them a little bit, and incentivize them right now is a way to do it by money.
So teachers are motivated by money?
No, I think teachers are motivated because they have a passion to teach.
Right. So, is there any scientific research that shows that merit pay works?
I haven't seen scientific research. There's theories on it, but I can tell you in the state of Florida right now, 100% of our teachers that are out there, when we look at them, 80% of the teachers are doing great. They're at that great level. 10% are doing exceptional. Very, very exceptional, and that's what we want, because those exceptional teachers, statistically, if you lose one, it takes 11 more hiring teachers to get to that person. So we want to promote these 80% to that exceptional level. Then there's another 10% out there at the bottom of the barrel that just maybe got in the wrong profession, and it happens. People switch professions all the time. That 10% we want to kind of weed out and get them, or incentivize them to get to the next level and create better things to make them teach a lot better for these kids.
The average salary in St. Johns County is $48,000. I don't know what it is in Pulaski.
Okay.
Bill Proctor, when he was in here, said the goal was to get them up to what he said was a professional salary. He defined a professional salary on average as $60,000. There are 2,000, that's $12,000 per teacher. There are 2,000 teachers. That comes to $23,844 a year for St. Johns County alone to get the average salary up.
Okay.
St. Johns County is the most successful school district.
Right.
Flagler County is not very far behind.
Right.
It means that they would have more than 10% of those teachers being exceptional. It'd be significantly more.
Right.
Where's the $23 million going to come from? Legislature, the local district says it's an unfunded mandate.
Right. Well, I want to go to the budget real quick in a whole. $70 billion is in our state budget. Okay, that's what we spend. Of that, $29 billion is healthcare, and of that, $21 billion is Medicaid. Medicaid is a significant part of that budget. What we need to do is make sure we can streamline everything on the Medicaid side, get rid of some of the fraud. But
Great, I get that. We'll get to that.
Well, hang on. I'm going to get there because when I save your money on Medicaid, I can now put it back into education. We now have the primary care physicians for Medicaid, so that not every individual has to go to the hospital. They can go to a primary care physician before they went to the hospital. If they go to ER, the rule in the state of Florida, the law right now, if you walk into the ER, is you have to be seen by a doctor before you can get admitted, or before you can get released. If you go in there and you're on Medicaid and you have a cold and a nurse can take care of that, you're saving tons of money. There's been formulas out there and studies that if you can get rid of that on the Medicaid side of things, if somebody doesn't need to be seen by a doctor, you can save $500 million. That $500 million I can take and put back into education. And I can start paying the teachers what they need, I can start putting technology into the students' hands, and I can start opening up better vocational schools for that career track individual that doesn't want to go to college.
How many years away is that?
It's something we got to look at. I mean, I'm hoping we can get it done sooner rather than later, obviously. We're in the forefront of education in terms of being there nationally, but we're not funding it well at all. I mean, everybody knows that. So it's something that we have to look at if I get in there, we'll try and streamline it as fast as possible. But if we can do that and move it over and get rid of some of that tremendous healthcare pie that's part of our budget, move that $29 billion or $21 billion over into education as best we can, piece by piece. But we're gonna be positioned to be the leading sector, one in education, but two in jobs.
Okay. Former Governor Bush has said merit pay, pay for performance won't work if there isn't any money to pay for it. There isn't any money to pay for it.
Right.
And we're still in a recession. The school district is going to has announced that it will start to have layoffs next year because they're this is St. Johns County, because their cash reserves are getting approaching what the minimum standards are that the state requires, and they need to expand their cushion. So I just don't understand where the money is going to come from. They complain that the school board members say it won't work, there's no scientific study to show it will work, there's no money to pay for it, and they say the legislature's created this problem and it's affecting their budget because they don't have a way to pay for it.
Well, I think if you go back to that, saving that $500 million just out the gate from the ER perspective, that's part of that money. You can save, there's places we could save money from the healthcare side. Another thing, PIP, personal injury protection, that's a big thing. It's streamlining stuff that we can actually save money and not have to go through clerical work, legislative work. Another thing that you're going to get money from is job creation, like I talked about before. A lot of people hear the economy and hear things about the economy and what it is, but the best way to describe it is just think of a person named Economy who's gone through a heart attack and he's laying there on the bed and he's crashing. And that heart attacks come from stress or whatever it is, and that's the big banks or the stock market or whatever people are talking about. The simple thing is for government to do is just get out of the way, let free markets work themselves out. So that guy's laying there. The paddles on the crash cart is government. All we need to do is just give him a good charge by getting out of the way, streamlining it, and letting the free markets take over.
I get all that.
I
still want to stay in education, and we'll move on off that. Senator Thrasher, when he ran last time he had competition, he said he would not do any any unfunded mandates. And then after that, the school reform legislation came through, which had merit pay, which was an unfunded mandate. Am I hearing you say that you would not do unfunded mandates, which is pay for performance clearly is an unfunded mandate?
Well, I think it has to look at it on a per case basis. I mean, obviously, Senator Thrasher said he wouldn't do anything. I don't know where he was on the merit pay.
I'm just asking. Well, he was in favor of it. It was his bill.
Okay, then.
But I just want to emphasize. He said he wouldn't do unfunded mandates. The school district perceives that to be an unfunded mandate. I'm just trying to see where you stand on unfunded mandates.
Oh, I think unfunded mandates are bad. The only time I'd be in favor of them if they're going to be good fiscally for the economy later on. I don't particularly think that Tallahassee should be taking everything they do and passing off their budget to local government. That's a bad thing. But I can't tell you where I stand on unfunded mandates. Hard. You're asking for a yes or no answer, and it depends on the bill. It depends on what's coming across, and it depends on what the effect is later on down the road.
Okay, I'll move off that and I just ask one other question. The Flagler County School District threatened to sue the state over merit pay. The St. Johns County School District is vehemently opposed to it. What changes, if any, would you as a legislature lobby to have made in that?
For merit pay, like I said, I don't see a problem with merit pay. We're making people compete out there. We're making the educators compete. We're making the children compete. So in terms of getting rid of merit pay, no, I would be against that. I'm for the merit pay system.
There is scientific evidence, or there isn't, that merit pay works?
I don't know. I haven't looked into that.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because you said earlier that people enter teaching not for the money, but for the reward of teaching.
I can tell you there's evidence if you're in any job sector, any private sector, if you're going to get rewarded, you're going to work harder. I mean, that's the private markets. That's how they work. So if you're sitting in a corporate and they're going to incentivize you to work harder to get more loans out the door or anything that you're doing, I use the loans for my example for my wife, but if they're going to incentivize you to do more and they're going to pay you more, you're going to work harder. That's life. That's how it is.
Okay. This legislature's approved funding to build charter schools, but not to build public schools. St. Johns County has the need to build 2 public schools a year. I don't know what it is in Flagler County, but I suspect you do. There's no money to build these schools,
right?
But there is money to build charter schools. Would you favor changing that law?
Yeah, I mean, we got to look at it, but again, when I'm getting back to the budget, and I hate to keep beating a dead horse here. Mm-hmm. We got to shift it. We got to shift everything back to education. We got to get that big piece of the pie out and go back to education.
There is money there, but it's not going to public schools. It's going to privately operated schools that get public funding.
Right.
So I'm just trying to ask, do you favor any change in the law?
I would love for there to be more public schools out there. I love the opportunity of choice. I mean, I like charter schools as well, but we can't push one versus the other. We got to give everybody.
The legislature's done that, though. I'm just asking, would you favor a change in the funding law for school construction? Right now, there's only money that the state will fund for new school construction is for charter schools.
Right. I would definitely consider that.
Consider that? Okay. As you know that there are, you may know that there are 3 private charter schools, for-profit charter schools have applied for license in St. Johns County.
Right.
The intention of charter schools supposedly was to give choice,
right?
And the theory was to give people in failing school districts that choice. This is the most successful school district. There are 2 types of charter schools: for-profit and non-profit. Right. The for-profit basically has public money going to people to make a profit. Do you favor any change? And I'm sure you're familiar with the Miami Herald series that eviscerated charter schools, the for-profit ones, saying that they were taking a lot of money out of the districts. Do you favor any changes in the charter school legislation that would in any way change the funding with respect to for-profit and non-profit?
Yeah, I don't think we need to be funding for-profit charter schools from the public side. If they're for-profit, they're going out there for a business to make money. And now, if we're handing them money, to me that's a government handout. We don't need to be doing that. On the non-profit side, they're there to educate. They're not there to make money. So that's the choice I would prefer, is let them go through. Same with it's just like the public school system. They're not there to make money. They're there to educate. When you going into a for-profit mode now, you're trying to make money, and now you're asking for government handouts, in my opinion.
Okay. The three candidates who ran in the district adjoining yours, most of the northern, central and northern St. Johns County, said, all of them said that one of the candidates who lost said, quote, "We must allow students in science class to question whether evolution is the basis for the origin of life." That's called academic freedom. All three of the candidates said that they believed in teaching intelligent design or
The creationism.
creationism in science class. Where do you stand on that, sir?
I don't think we need to teach creationism in science class. And the reason for that, I believe it's religion. It is a religion. We can teach religious classes all day long if that's what the school wants to do. But that, in my opinion, there's no scientific hypothesis. There's no way to prove, and it's not a science, in my opinion. Again, it's a religion. If they want to teach it in theology or any religious class they want to, that's fine with me.
One of the big changes, I'm going to change the subject now, the growth management law. One of the interesting things was when they changed the law, it had been that adjoining counties could object and regional growth agencies could object over development. And there was a proposal for 5,000 homes in Palm Coast that St. Johns County got opposed. Under the new law, St. Johns County didn't have a legal status to oppose, so those houses have been approved. Actually, I found that later it was 15,000 homes in multiple projects. St. Johns County says basically the people in the administration building and the commissioners are saying, we're losing control. These are going to be right on our border, and we don't have a say in this. Do you favor any change in the growth management law? Yeah,
I would. Again, I'd like to give local control. I don't want it from Tallahassee. But we got to think regionally. If it's something that's going to affect, there's no secret in Flagler County, most of their workforce drives to other counties. So that's putting impacts on your roads. It's putting costs on you that you're going to have to pay. So I think we need to think more regional planning on that approach, and not just let one county make a decision. I mean, ultimately the decision is theirs to make, but we have to think regionally and let them have some kind of checks and balance with the other counties so that they can disapprove it if it's going to be overburdening to them.
Doc Costello, who was one of the writers of the growth management law, said that what really irritated him was under the Christ administration, the projects were being rejected because they said there was no demand for them. So the law now says you don't have to show that this demand to build houses. And now there are 15,000 houses approved for construction in Flagler County with just clearly no demand. Do you favor change in the law that to return to the way it was, to say that you have to have a demand to get an approval?
No, I don't. The reason being is I'm a free market guy. I don't believe developers, they may, but I don't believe developers should put 15,000 homes on the ground without a market showing that they can sell them. So I want the free markets to work themselves out. I think the people out there are educated enough, the individuals that own private businesses are educated enough to know when a market's coming in order to do certain things. The 15,000 homes you just mentioned, I don't know if they're going to be on the ground today or 10 years from now.
That's the point. They're not going to be in the ground now, but they're getting approval now in this favorable regulatory environment. Right. And so that the years 10 or 15 years from now, when they actually start to build those homes, there'll be a different group there. That's the argument for it, is that these people are getting, developers are coming in when there's a favorable environment, because there isn't any building going on, but then it'll be a different set of people will be affected.
And again, I don't think they need to show a demand. Again, that's another government regulation. When it comes to jobs in the economy, listen, there's two things. I've went around with the Florida Chamber and Enterprise Florida and talked to the governor. There's two things that really are the big things that businesses coming to Florida care about. One is their workforce. Two, how much does it cost? And three, how quickly can I get it done? That's all they care about. They don't care if they're going to St. Johns County. They don't care if they're going to Miami-Dade. Those are what they care about right there. So we've got to streamline the process to them. We've got to get rid of the regulatory environments in terms of the fees themselves, in terms of the stuff they're going to have to pay to streamline it. And also, I've gone around this district and said, I'll do exactly what Governor Scott's doing. Governor Scott's went out there, met with businesses outside the area, and started cold calling them. I've told every chamber that I've talked to, if you've got a business on the hook to move to my district, give me their phone number. I'll tell them how good we are and why they need to come here.
The state's unemployment rate is 8.8 now. It had been 8.2. It's just ticking back up. But it's about a point and a half below where it would have been had there not been discouraged workers.
Right.
The discouraged workers have left the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Or not left the workforce, have left applying for jobs.
Right.
And had they stayed in the workforce in the last, since Governor Scott's been in, the unemployment rate would have gone down 0.3%, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sign that what the state is now doing is not working. And what should the state do differently to encourage job creation? And if you're going to talk about regulations, would you please say specifically which regulations you would change?
Well, going to try and take that. There's a lot, so let me try and take it one by one. The workforce itself, I've gone all around this district. I actually met a gentleman named Bob in the F section of Palm Coast when I was knocking, and he actually made the same statement you made. 63 years old, I believe he was, unemployed, and just said, "I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to look for a job. I'm tired of this. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because." You know, he's out there every single day applying for jobs, knocking on business doors, trying to get something. So, yes, people are pulling themselves out of workforce from the frustration. Help me out with the next part of what your question.
The question is that it's only gone down 0.3%
Right.
since Governor Scott's been in. That's an indication that it's not working. What
Right.
the state's doing is not working. And the unemployment rate's going down appears to be larger simply because people have left the workforce or left seeking jobs.
Sure.
So what should the state do differently than what it's now doing to kickstart job growth?
Okay. Again, the proposal I've had is vocational schools and putting money into those. I don't think that every kid wants to go to college. I don't think there's people out there that don't want to work. Like I mentioned, Bob, he's out there every day in the F section over in Palm Coast. If we could take these kids and put them on a career path, the ones that don't want to go to college, the ones that aren't college bound are interested into it, and we can create manufacturers, welders, carpenters.
Skilled trades.
When they come out, they're ready to work. They're not having to go from the college level and then go to a carpentry shop and have to learn. Because some of those jobs are in high demand right now. We just haven't teach that workforce for it. So I think at the state level, we need to start shifting for years down the road, a couple of years down the road, and say, look, let's start educating these children so that when the jobs and the economy do come back, we've got a very highly skilled workforce right here, you know, in St. John's or Flagler or Florida, for example. And now we can go out there and we can do what we need to do: build homes, build ships, do what we do best: agriculture, farming. There's some vocational schools out there to do software tech, so they can go do software tech. That's a huge industry right now.
I'm going to change the subject to a couple other things and then I'll shut up.
Okay.
There was a man in Keystone, I believe it was Keystone Heights, who was had an arrest record for minor offenses. He was trying to scare somebody away, shot a gun into the ground. He was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years in prison for firing a gun in the commission of the crime.
10-20 life. Right.
10-20 life.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge refused to sentence him, saying the punishment far exceeded the crime. So the sentenced him to 3 years. Angela Corey, who was the prosecutor, appealed. She won the appellate court, so they was resentenced to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Many people in the bar were arguing this shows that the law needs to be adjusted again. As you know, Senator Thrasher is the father of this bill. What changes, if any, would you consider for the 10-20 life law?
Well, I'd like to kind of give it parameters and let the judges decide. Every case is different. The judges are elected for reasons. The judges are licensed and pass the bar for reasons. You know, a better example would be from 5 years, I don't know the exact number, but from 5 years to 15 and let the judge decide, or 3 years to 20, let the judge decide based on a case-by-case basis. For an individual shooting a gun into the ground, like you said, the judge probably said this is ridiculous, putting someone away, you know, who's just trying to scare off some threats. You know, it's something that needs to be looked at on a case-by-case basis, but it needs to be handled in the court system. And again, Tallahassee doesn't need to be preaching from the top down. We need to give it to them and let them figure it out. They're experts, not us.
You've spoken about Medicare, Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
Would you give us specifics? I know you gave some examples about emergency room, but Bill Proctor, referred to as the Pac-Man of the budget, said that you're quite correct that it's growing so much, and because of the anti-tax move in Tallahassee, that if they spend more money in Medicare, Medicaid basically comes out of education. So what would you do to change that significant? I don't know, make a significant reduction in that cost so that there is money freed up for other purposes.
Yeah, there's ways we could do it. As I mentioned before, the ER idea. There's other things out there where registered nurses are completely qualified to handle certain things, but there's still laws that prevent them from doing it because they have to go see a doctor. In certain cases, we need to look at a case-by-case basis, but if a registered nurse, and by the way, on the battlefield, when we go to war, registered nurses take care of people. So if we can get registered nurses in certain cases to take care of them, we're not having to spend that extra money getting them to the doctor. We can get them out of the ERs quicker or out of the patient waiting rooms quicker. That's some things we can look at. And I think there's some other ways in terms of the insurance side of things with some of the tort reform issues as well. But as you mentioned, that is the Pac-Man. It's $29 billion out of our $70 billion state budget, healthcare itself. $21 billion is Medicaid. So we need to look at more specifically the Medicaid and see how we can make that a little bit more reformed. But again, if you have $70 billion, $29 billion is being taken up, you've only got limited resources for everything else. So we need to start shrinking that Pac-Man and start putting it at other places. Some representatives want it other places than I do. I said strictly education.
Okay. The Governor, Bill Proctor, is very highly critical of the governor and the legislature for cutting spending to higher education. The college presidents are all saying that it's not helping them one iota. But Florida has earned distinction. We have some of the best party schools in the University of Florida, Florida State. Yeah. But we don't have any public university that earns national respect, unlike in, say, California and other states, University of Texas, right, where schools have reputations being leading research institutions. Right. What should the state of Florida do to enhance the quality of its public education and elevate the status?
In higher education.
Higher education, yes.
In my opinion, these schools that are growing and getting money because of the children, and they're focused in a broad variety of areas. You're talking about leading institution research. We need to focus some of these schools on some of those leading institutions, and we need to incentivize them better for that. I don't know exactly which schools want to go where, but we need to kind of steer them as University of Florida is going to be X, Y, and Z, and if you want those three things, you go there. University of Florida State is A, B, and C. I can tell you Lafayette College, where I went to, we were economics and business, and we were engineering. That's pretty much it. Everything else, you were going there for an undergrad and trying to go somewhere else for a graduate school. So we need to kind of shift it and prioritize it into one or two things per school, and that way the children can make their choices of what they want to do when they get out of their higher ed stuff.
Governor Scott is a fan of pay for performance, and he wants to have a pay for performance for college professors. College presidents said, you do that, we will lose our best and brightest who will go, who are our leading researchers, our leading professors will leave the state. What's your stance on Governor Scott's pay for performance?
As I've said, I'm a big pay for performance person. I'm a big merit pay person because it incentivizes it. In terms of higher education, I haven't looked at it in detail. I hear what you're saying when they said that they'll lose their teachers, so I want to look at that one a lot more on higher education. Since I am young, I have taken one of the first FCATs that was released in the state of Florida. I did actually. It wasn't that tough. It wasn't that tough. But that being said, my main focus has been on lower ed and kind of where my platform and stances are on lower ed, just because I've had more firsthand experience on lower ed. Some of my higher ed stuff has been out of the state, so I haven't been too privy to some of the things that other people have had an opportunity to be, firsthand in.
Okay, I've spoken too much, so I'll be quiet.
Oh, you're fine. It's been great.
We try to ask you a little different questions. Let me come back to the college question again. And another thing that You can tell we listen to a lot of things that Bill Proctor says.
Yeah, very sharp guy.
And he
Well
is a
respected.
huge supporter of tuition increases, and yet the legislature never voted it down. What's your take?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Tuition increases
Uh-huh.
for the university system to be able to compete and to further their place among colleges and universities in America,
Right.
but yet the legislature is holding that down.
But I would be a fan of tuition increases, but go back to exactly what I said with the colleges. We need to specialize where these kids are and what they're going for. I mean, someone going, like you said, to one of the public schools for the degree in partying or something simple, we don't need that. We need to prioritize it. We need to specialize them. And that way, when we get out, we can keep them here in our workforce in the state of Florida, and we can grow. I mean, our job, like I said, Americans want to compete. Our job in the state of Florida should be to try and get to number one. I mean, everybody should want to.
The question in that one really is more along the lines of lobbying to allow the state system to charge more money compared to other states.
Right.
The Florida state system charges much less.
Right.
Proctor was a proponent to compete with the American Association of Colleges and Universities. But so that one. Let me come to another question on jobs and the economy.
Okay.
And everybody, to a person that we've met with, wants more jobs, wants to improve the economy. And the real question I have always is kind of the same, but what do you think is necessary to do that at the state legislature level? How in the world do we do that? I know one of your things is going to be we take the regulations off, take the gloves off, let free enterprise do it. But what do you support to help improve the economy and jobs? What will you do if and when you get there?
Yeah, well, like I said, the regulations, or like you said, the regulations and streamlining is a big important thing. Another big thing is optimism. That's more of a macro economy talk. Most people, if they're optimistic, they're going to spend money. That's just how the world works. In terms of Tallahassee and specifics, I'd like to look at it when I get there and see where there's extra regulations, see where there's stuff that is overburdening the small business guy, because I think that's where we're hurting the most. That small business guy, that mom and pop that has to spend thousands of dollars just to do a startup, whether it's, do a bakery or a hair cuttery. Those are ones that are getting hurt, and those are the ones that help us stimulate the economy most. So that's something that I would like to look at. That's more small business oriented instead of the larger business corporation style stuff.
All right, let me tag on to that.
Okay.
To grow a significant economy in the state of Florida, it's going to take more than small business. It's going to take commercial development. It's going to take commercial development, and I mean not just retail, but industrial, technical, medical. Where do you see that going?
Well, and that still can all be small business. It's not saying it's big business. Small business is the backbone of our economy. It's the backbone of Florida as well. When you get into medical, you're talking about doctors. I mean, that's small business. So you got to look at industry by industry. You got to see what's hurting them, what regulations are killing them, especially for startups. And that's my big focus. If we can get more startups, then that's why I kind of always go back to that vocational stuff, because we can get more startups and we get more skilled labor, then that's going to boost the small business side of things and let them compete. And hopefully we can get them competing so strong they're going against big businesses. And all that's going to do is make us grow. I mean, we're only as strong as our weakest link.
Let me rephrase Ron's question. There are three economic drivers in St. Johns County.
Okay.
Big ones. Tourism,
right?
the Port of Jacksonville,
Mm-hmm.
and medical. Both of the latter two are based mostly in Jacksonville. But we especially a big part of this county, and even in Flagler, because people commute from there. That those are the big drivers. What can the legislature do to enhance for your district the port as an economic driver in this area, and medical community as an economic driver?
Okay, well, the easy answer is get out of the way. Government's always in the way. For the port itself, Adam Putnam, Ag Commissioner Adam Putnam, has gone around the state of Florida when he was campaigning, and I was there with him, and said, look, we've got a problem with our ports and how we fund them. We have a piece of the pie and we split it up 6 or 7 different ways. I don't know exactly how many ports there are that get that funding, but he said the best way to do it in terms of capital improvement projects is take that piece of the pie and go from port to port each year. That's something that would be huge, because they're not taking that small piece of the pie and just paying salaries or just paying small maintenance costs. They're now having to provide, thinking 4 or 5 years out, okay, we've got a chunk of money coming for capital improvements. For the primary care side, again, I think there's regulations in there that are hurting us. Go back to the registered nurses. Some registered nurses in some specific cases can take care of stuff.
Okay, okay, let me rephrase it this way. When I first got here 8 years ago, the University of Florida was considering building a teaching facility in St. Johns County.
Okay.
And the purpose of that was that it was hard for them to attract professors at the medical school because they weren't near a hub of high-quality hospitals. There are high-quality hospitals, Mayo, St. Vincent's, Baptist.
This is while Shands was there, they were still considering this? Is what
Yes,
you're
this
saying?
is it. Well, the Shands is one hospital.
Right.
There were, each one of those
Oh,
hospitals
yeah, okay.
has a
Right.
area of expertise, and they wanted the professors to be near them, and so their students. So there was talk about that. The economy went south,
Yeah, well,
and that idea went
and
south.
UNF Shands is actually, I don't know if you're aware, but UNF Shands is actually pocketing itself, at least around Jacksonville, but I think other part of the counties, where they're bringing in students over the summers. They're working at this UNF stuff, and then they're actually getting hospital work too.
I get that, but I was just asking if there's any role in the University of Florida having a satellite plant for its, or facility for its medical school in this region.
I'd have to get with the people of the University of Florida. I don't know what their long-term plans are.
And now that's my normal question, I'll shut up. And that is, and I understand the altruistic views of why you'd want to serve your community and all that, but why else would you want to run? Why do you seek this office? And what makes you better than your opponent? And I know we say, well, I can't speak for my opponent, but you got to believe it. But you got to believe.
Well, I think the
right?
big difference between me and my opponent is that I've got some job experience. I've got some private sector experience. I own a small business, like I said, a rental company. I pay paychecks to other people. I put food on their table by paying for some of their salaries and some of their jobs that they've done. So I've got that business-minded approach that I like to take to Tallahassee. In terms of why I run, it's simple. Like I said before, I really have a passion to serve for this area. We've lost a great one, Dr. Proctor. Everybody loves him. He's endorsed me. He's a great representative, and he worked really, really hard up there. And that's why I called him when it got turned out and the seats were redistricted. I said, Dr. Proctor, I know I'm a little young, but I want to go up there and work as hard as you and serve for this area just like you did, serve for this district just like you did. And I called and developed a relationship with Fred Costello, who had the southern half of this district before it realigned, and got with both of them and started working on issues and working on what was important and what I needed to do to make myself better. Because when I get up there, I don't want to just be another person in a seat. I want to compete again and be number one myself so that my district can be number one. And again, we're only as good as our weakest link. If we can pull everything up, not saying this district's weak, but we can pull everything up and get everybody to compete on the representative side, the Senate side, and the cabinet side, then we're going to be strong and we're going to grow as a state.
Margot, Sheldon?
Thank you very much.
Well, one thing that I've touched on with other candidates is the whole idea of the online shopping malls and the lack of taxation going back to the state. And you probably know as well as I do that a lot of people do shop online more
Right.
than we want to think. So
Right.
where do you stand on that legislation to bring that tax
Yeah, well,
to online shopping?
I'm not a big proponent of taxes, but on that specific legislation, I'll tell you, it's not fair in the state of Florida. I talked to the chamber and I talked to several other peoples that deal with that, and I said, look, I am absolutely fine making a fair playing field on the taxation side, so that we're not losing that money from our side of things at the state. However, what I'm apprehensive about, and I need to know more about, and I've asked the chamber and they still haven't gotten back to me too much on it, is how do we police this? If somebody's out of the state and they decide, okay, we're not going to pay your taxes, no matter if it's law or not, are we sending Pam Bondi to go sue them like crazy and spend all this state money? So you show me how to police it, you show me if it makes economic sense, and I would be 100% making it fair across the board.
Okay, and likewise, the tourism industries has bed tax
Right.
going uncollected for the same
Absolutely.
reason. And do you have the same kind of
I have the
motivation?
exact same answer for that. I can make it easy for you. Again, let's make it fair, but show me how you police it. I don't want to do something that's going to put a burden on the state of Florida economically.
Okay. Now, you mentioned one of your goals, free up markets from government involvement, in terms of jobs and economy. Are you talking about regulations?
Yeah, regulation, again, the regulation
For-
streamlining, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm worried about.
Can you give me a
For
specific
example.
regulation?
Yeah, well, there's plenty of them out there. For the regulations itself, there's a lot of government agencies. Governor Scott has gone out there and kind of collapsed those agencies because we were doing duplicative work. It was taking longer for stuff to come on. I'd like to look at even more in depth of some of those agencies that are taking that regulatory stuff and bringing them together. As I said with the small business guy, the moms and pops, I want to make sure that we streamline them and make sure it is very cost effective for them to start up.
That's just one more time. Give me one regulation that you would eliminate.
I'd have to look at specifically what industry we're talking about and what regulations are out there on them.
All right, let's go. Governor Scott has done a lot of trade missions out of the state, to foreign countries, most recently to Spain,
Right.
where Spain already has, high unemployment and all kinds of problems in the economy. Where do you stand on our government using state funds to travel out of the country to seek jobs and businesses?
I don't think we need to travel and spend money unless we're closing a deal and it's going to make more sense in the long run when we're getting more money in. I'm a big fan of cold calling. I'm a big fan of meetings. We've got technology nowadays, Skype, FaceTime. But if it's something that causes a chance where you have to go, let's say, to the state of Georgia and you got to spend a little money, but you're going to get 10 times the amount coming back to you just to land that deal and sign that piece of paper, then that makes sense. But in terms of just wasting money, no, I don't think we need to do that outside of this area.
Okay. Also, tell me, what is your understanding of this Office of Economic Opportunity? You talk about more jobs. The governor created the Office of Economic Opportunity, brought some other state agencies under it. Have you thought about that? Have you got any impression from the chamber about whether or not?
I haven't really talked to the
Thanks.
chamber about it. I've known the plan was to kind of streamline everything, as we mentioned before, with that office. I haven't looked at it. I haven't seen the ramifications that it's caused, whether it's been good or bad yet. But in theory, again, the free market guy, the streamlining guy, it makes sense to me. But I'd like to look at it in more detail before I can tell you whether it's good or bad, in my opinion.
So you see more
Yeah,
competitiveness for businesses in Florida.
Right. We want them to come out. We want them to compete. We want to grow. That's my big stance.
What do you see as the major markets for St. John's and Flagler County? What should they be attracting here?
Well, I mean, both of them. There's two things. There's tourism. Tourism's a big part of the economy here. In terms of small business and then agriculture in that whole district. I'm very, very blessed that I've got an agriculture background in one of the heavier agriculture districts in the state of Florida. We're very unique in the sense we're very coastal, so it's helping our tourism. We've got a lot of growth in the middle, the central part along the 95 corridor. Shores, Palm Coast, everything that's kind of growing out. And then we're heavy ag on the west side. So those are things we need to look at from this district to go to the state level and make sure that, again, we can grow and we can prosper and we can compete against other parts of the state.
Do you think we could compete for something like a Scripps? Do you think our region, our district, your district, in terms of biomedical, biotech, and all that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we can. I need to look at it a little bit more. I would love to help that. I would love to get different industries here, different things that we can do. And again, I'll do everything I can, and it's within my power to help that happen, to make sure we're getting these jobs here. But it's something that, again, I'd have to wait till I get up there, look at, and see what makes sense and how we can do it.
Margaret raised an excellent point. I want to piggyback off.
Okay.
Governor Scott's view is, you want to come, I'll call, I'll welcome on
Right.
the incentives. Governor Bush's view was we need a plan. And so he came up with scripts. He wanted to make us the biomedical center. As you may recall, Governor Scott took the incentive away for that company to go to Sarasota, which is leading cancer research.
Right.
And that's why Governor Scott perhaps has an English problem in Sarasota.
That's no secret.
So that's two different philosophies. Governor Bush says we need a plan. Let's make us the biomed center or other things. And Governor Scott, you want to come? We'll welcome you.
Yeah, I'd probably hybrid those. What I'd like to do is let the locals figure out what their plan is. What do you want? What do you go for? Like I mentioned, ag and tourism are big. But you tell me where your plan is, what you're going for, and hey, by the way, we've got this business on the hook that may be interested, may not. We need them pushed over. That's where I would take the Governor Scott approach of, well, shoot me their number. Let me tell them, as I've been going around the district, what I see, why they should bring their business here, why they should move here. And I'll call them myself as a state representative if I am elected and say, this is why this is important. This is what this means to me. This is what this means to the community. So again, a hybrid approach is what I'd more look at. Planning on the local level. I don't want to preach from Tallahassee, this is exactly how you're going to build your stuff in my district. I don't think we need a dictatorship up there.
I have two more questions.
Okay.
One is, what are people telling you about what District 24 needs going forward?
Well, jobs is the biggest. I know I keep hitting on that. Palm Coast and Flagler County, they were at one time, I think, 15% unemployment. I think they're now down to 12 something.
They're the worst in the state.
Yeah, they're the worst in the state. And there's several different factors why, but again, I think we need to start now with the youth, and let's start doing some of those career path schools and start getting them the job skills and the trade skills they need so that when they come out, they're ready to work. The ones that want to go to college, God bless them, let them go to college, that's fine. But we got to start getting into the industries that are here. Medical, you mentioned. So whatever the industries are, we can put them into some of the trade skills. Let's go ahead and get them there. Let's get them graduated. Let's get them, to be whatever they need to be in those areas and move forward.
Well, public schools had vocational training, vocational magnet schools, and pretty much they have gone away because the funding has gone away. So
what happened?
It's a culture change.
Yeah, what happened was when the state said we're either going to go career or we're going to go college, they put all their eggs in one basket, and that was college. So the schools started cutting them. There was a big argument. Actually, they were thinking about putting the vocational under community colleges, and that was a huge uproar. I don't think we put our eggs in all the college baskets, because if we don't have the jobs, our kids are going to graduate from here on our dime, and they're going to go move somewhere and work. So we need to start shifting that basket back into the vocational side.
Okay. All right. How do you view your opponent who is a no-party affiliate? You mentioned when Pete was asking you about opponent, you said opponents.
Right.
It sounded like singular. So
opponents, yeah, I've been saying there's two. Absolutely.
So you understand there's and
absolutely. I've actually in the campaign trail I've ran into the two Democratic opponents that were on the primary ticket. Melissa and Doug, and saw them a lot. I've yet to see Mr. Cornish out, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to. I mean, he's kind of like me. I was out there in the community, but I didn't really gear my campaign up till after the primary, which I'm sure he's doing. So yeah, I consider myself going against two opponents with two probably different philosophies from me, and it's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of walking and knocking to get our name IDs out there and make sure that we can hopefully get the message right that people will vote for us.
And of course, St. Johns County makes up what, 20%?
St. John's is 21.
21.
Flagler's 60, and Volusia is only 19. So yeah, it's Flagler's kind of the heavy hand on that one. But we're doing what we need to do in terms of meeting as many folks as we can. The reason they do districts like this is geographically. Geographically, we have the same needs.
We're sort of running out of time. I just want to ask one last question. Margaret, do you have one? You asked your question.
No, that was all I had.
Has a PAC been formed to work on behalf of your candidacy?
No. I've raised all my money myself, made all the calls myself. I don't have any PAC or soft money that I plan on using.
Okay. Well, has a PAC been, the way that the the new law where it's the tax you can't control. Just
Right.
Has anyone been informed in your?
No, not that I'm aware of at all. No one's, I don't even know if anyone's allowed to approach me to tell me, but I'm not aware of
Well,
anything.
I'll tell you the one for, Ms. Bennett came from the Hutson group, so,
Yeah, I heard about that. I was retired or resigned for a month and a half before any of that stuff went on, so I had no clue what was going on in that office.
Thank you. Travis, I want you to know how much we appreciate your time you
Thank
spent
you.
with us.
Thank you so
And
much.
I tell everybody that you get a rare thing in this room. You get the last word.
Well, great. All I want to say is if people have any info or want any information on me, they can go to my website. It's TravisHutson.com. We're actually going to be putting out some more of our plans and ideas on the website over the next 2 weeks, so people can see some of the stuff I'm talking about with the budgeting, the education, the Medicaid, and the job stuff that we see. And besides that, please vote November 6th. It's very important, and hopefully we'll get good turnout.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.